9. This chapter is long-lasting. It's very interesting that Lao Tzu talk about long-lasting after chapter 8. Chapter 8, we have virtue of water. So chapter 8 is about to cultivate Tao. We want to cultivate like water. There will be time that we situate ourselves in a filthy place, in the most disgusting place, and in a low place. So in this chapter, Lao Tzu talks about how to not get lost in the stream of water, because during our flowing as water, we will encounter many situations. We will encounter many external factors such as material desire. There are so many temptations out there. There are so many advertising. There are so many external factors and internal factors that will affect our cultivation. And the internal factors are our mind, our feeling, and our emotion. And some of these are very much tied to our material desire or our emotional fluctuation. So it's important to understand how to long last our spirit in terms of our cultivation, like continue going on this path. The journey of Tao is not easy. How to continue on the journey of Tao and to avoid the common pitfall. As you know, each chapter comes with title of 3 characters. This title is Bao Chang Zhang. The first character represents nurture or protect. The second character represents long-lasting. So I translate this chapter as long-lasting. However, you can see that some translation translate this chapter as 慈音章, and the translation is cultivation to fulfill. So if we use this translation, then the chapter title will be something like fulfilling our cultivation or fulfillment and cultivation. So it really depends on which version, which title name you look at. If you look at this one, it will be long lasting. If you look at this one, then the title will be cultivation and fulfillment. And as you study the Tao Te Ching, sometimes you will encounter some chapter have 2 different names. And that's because it comes from 2 different scholars. Most of the time, the chapter will have 1 chapter name. And occasionally, you will encounter some chapter has 2 names. Either name will be fine because the name were given by the ancient Chinese scholar who named the chapter based on the context. Either titles are okay. So this is a great example to show that there are a lot of Tao Te Ching translation. So it really doesn't matter which version you study, as long as they are good wisdom, then it will fulfill the purpose of Tao Te Ching. So I want to show you some etymology on the chapter name. So let's go back on this one. This first character, if we study the etymology on the first version, Bao Chang Zhang, then the etymology will be this one. So let's look at the first character here. The first character is named Bao. Bao means to nurture, protect, preserve, or keep. This is the meaning of Bao. And as you can see in the picture, there's a woman here. And this woman most likely is the mother of the baby. And she's holding a baby on the right-hand side. And as you can see on the Bao character, it has a square, and the square represents mouth. So the baby is opening up the mouth to be fed. To taking care of somebody, the most important thing that needs to be fulfilled is feeding and eating. So that's what you can see here. And you can see that how the picture transformed into this one. So on the Bao character, there's a horizontal line right here. The horizontal line represents the mother's hand holding the baby. And then underneath the square, which is the mouth, and also the arm of the mother, you can see the 3 stroke. And this 3 stroke which is not shown here, but you can imagine these 3 strokes represent the drapery or the towel or the covering used to cover the baby. So this is the etymology for the character Bao. Next one is Chang. Chang has a different layer of meaning. In this chapter, we use the meaning of long-lasting, and it can also mean often, casual, basic, and simple. Let's look at this picture here. So this picture, it represents somebody is wearing clothes. And this is the person, say, opening up the arms and then wearing the clothes. And this represents the towel or the garment that this person is going to wear. In other words, this character represents the casual wear a person wear. So this casual wear is something simple, something that this person wear all the time. It's plain and it's casual. So can we imagine something that we use all the time and it's casual, it's simple, it's long lasting and does not go out of style? Let me give you an example, such as towel. When we go buy towel, whether it's hand towel or bath towel, you can always see white color. And also t-shirt. T-shirt, this style will never go out of style. And also for the t-shirt, the 2 basic color is white and black. So these 2 color will never go out of style. And also the silverware. When we go out to buy silverware, you will always see white silverware, white cup, white plate, white bowl. And also same thing for coffee mug. So this is something that we can relate to. Something that's basic and simple and casual that we use often, that we use all the time, that's long lasting. Just like what it represents here, the towel, the simple towel, it's long lasting because it was used throughout a century, whether it's last century or this century, and it's going to be used in the future century. Now let's look at chapter 9. As you can see, the chapter 9 can be divided into 2 sections. First section is the body. Second section is conclusion. The body has 4 verses, and these 4 verses are the common pitfall that Lao Tzu wants us to avoid. It's interesting that Lao Tzu talk about this after chapter 8. Chapter 8, we have the virtue of water. We as the cultivator, if we flow like water, we will encounter different situations. And Lao Tzu wants us to be aware of the pitfall that we will face. So this is the 4 common mistakes that Tao cultivator will encounter. And this is the conclusion. To hold and to feel. It is better to stop early. As you know, sometimes when we read the translation, we know that some words are being omitted to maintain the structure of the sentence. So let me begin with the first verb. This word is 持. 持 is to hold, to control, and to manage. There is a message being omitted, which is in order to hold and to feel, that means a person have to hold a filled vessel, and this filled vessel is full of liquid. You pour this vessel and hold a position so that you can pour the liquid into another one. So this is the part that's being omitted. And here I paraphrase as hold a filled vessel and pour the liquid content into another container. To avoid overfilling, it is better to stop early. The green part that I highlighted is the part that's being omitted. On this verse, to hold and to feel, it's better to stop early. This verse tells us that when something is overdone, danger will come. For example, if you have $100 in your bank account, would you want to spend the entire $100 or would you leave some room for leverage? Do we always have some saving to prepare for the rainy day? We all drive, and when we drive, sometimes the air pressure in the tire runs low. We don't want to fill it up 100%. When the tire pressure is at its full capacity, it will reduce the contact surface between the tire and the ground, and therefore will reduce the braking performance, which will cause danger. And also when we eat, when we go to buffet, say before the pandemic, we don't want to overeat. If we overeat, the immediate consequence is that you will have upset stomach and you will have difficult walk or even feel uncomfortable. And in the long run, it's going to bring health danger. And same thing for driving. If you go to buy a car and the salesperson say, well, this car has a very good performance. It can drive 185 miles per hour. It has great horsepower. Would you like to drive it to its full capacity? When your expectation is overdone, it will bring danger. There's a lot of danger in many sports, such as mountain skiing, climbing the cliff, or climbing the mountain. And a lot of casualty will happen in this situation because they are overstretching their human ability. They are overstretching their expectation or fulfilling their own goal. They want to break their own record. When their idea, goal, or expectation is overstretched, then it will bring danger to them. In terms of cultivation, we know that our body is made up of two parts. One is the physical part and the other one is the spiritual part, which is the invisible part. Are you pursuing the material wants to fulfill your physical need? Are you going after that too much? If it's too much, you need to know when to stop. Lao Tzu is not saying that don't pursue the material wants. Lao Tzu want to convey to us, it's okay to have material wants, but you have to stop early before it brings danger to you. And one thing that we can derive from this message is that instead of pursuing much on the material wants, we also want to focus our attention on our spiritual growth. Because when you have too much material wants, that will overshadow our spiritual cultivation. We need to have a balance of fulfilling our basic need and also our spiritual growth. Second, learning. We always want to leave a space, and feeling not knowing enough will allow growth in our personal life and also in our spiritual growth too. Here I have a picture of the anatomy of the egg. On the curved side, you will always see an air pocket. So without an air pocket, the baby chicks will not be able to grow. So leaving a space is very important. And also in dealing with others, always back up a few steps. We all have experience making some doll, right? Like if we don't, at least we see people making doll. It's okay to be flexible, to be soft, to be poke. And the message is about endurance and patience. So if you have a business and if you argue with customer, you will end up losing the customer. If you are in a working environment and if you think you are right, you have a fight with your coworker, you will end up losing their trust. And if you are an employee and you think you are right, you fight with your boss, you will end up losing your job. And if you have a big argument with your family member, although you are right, you will lose that family bonding. And same thing for friendship too. So remember, whoever we argue, sometimes winning is losing. Happiness is not how much we gain. It's how simple we live in our life. The simplicity will bring joy and tranquility in our life. It's okay to have desire, but it should not be too strong. We need to know when to stop. So on this slide, it's about the same verse. It's about the same verse. The only difference is that look at the yellow highlighted area, because the 词 can have a different meaning. And the second meaning of the 词 in this verse is cultivation or cultivate. And on here, 急, it means self. So 急 has two meanings. One is early, the other one is self. So when you focus these two characters, when you shift the two, When you shift the meaning of the two characters into the yellow highlighted part, it will have entire different meaning. So here I translated as to fulfill on cultivation. It is better to focus on self. This self comes from this word self. So this is a second interpretation. And we know that in this context, we know that in this context, the self is talking about inner nature. It's not talking about self-desire. And this is what I find translation interesting, because for me, translation is a fun part. I basically break down the word into different. I basically break down the word. I basically break down the sentence into different. I break down the sentence into each character, and with each character, it has its meaning, and therefore I put the puzzle together. Therefore, I put the puzzle together. So the puzzle. So here I have two puzzle forms. One is this one, and the second one is this one. To fulfill on cultivation, or in cultivation and fulfillment in life, it is better to focus on self. So the second part is very similar. So the later part of the verse is the same, but the first part, I find that either way, either translation is fine. To fulfill on cultivation, or in cultivation and fulfillment in life, either way is fine. So on this slide, I just want to demonstrate to you that sometimes Lao Tzu's translation can have different interpretation, depends on the meaning that we use for each character. And each character, sometimes it has a multiple meaning. And when you use a different meaning, the entire message will change. And on this one is it's an important word for, on this slide, it's about the character of yin, which is right here, yin. So yin has two meanings. One is to feel or to feel. One is to feel, the other one is to overfeel. And I find this character very interesting, so I want to share with you. So let's look at the component of this character. First of all, let's start from the top. This character represents a pregnant woman, and this pregnant woman has swollen breast and belly. I draw a picture here. You see the swollen breast and belly. And so she is overweight. She weighs more than a normal woman. So you can imagine when she go there, the bathtub, when she go over to the top, the water is going to come up, or the water level is going to rise up. Second, this character meaning another one, adding another one, or adding another person. And the third component is a container, which you can see on the oracle here. Does this looks like the container? So this one represents this character here. So now let's look at this picture here. On the first oracle here have a different oracle. Here you can see different image. It represents the oracle from different timing in different dynasty. As you can see, it evolved from the first one to the last one. So originally, this character has one person sitting in the tub, and in the tub, there's 3 drops of water. So when it's 3 drops of water, it means a lot of water. So when one person goes in the tub, that means the water level goes up, right? And on the second one, you can see, wow, there's 2 persons sitting on the top, and the 3 drops of water is the same. So can you imagine when 2 persons sitting on the top, what happened to the water? It's going to be overfilled, like this picture here. Therefore, when you look at this character, it means to fill with one person. The water level rise up because there's one person inside. But then when there's 2 persons inside, the water will overfill. So I find this character interesting, and I want to share that with you. It's and by the way, I get this I get all my etymology from this website here. This one on this website, I get my etymology from this website here, QIYUANCHAZIWANG.com. So if you want, you can look at some etymology from this website, but I want to tell you that not all the words has this pictogram. To over sharpen a knife, it won't last long. Here I highlighted the green part. The green part is being omitted during the translation. So let me talk about the first verb here, try. It's a multiple action, and this multiple action involve hammering, shaping, flattening, and polishing. So in this verse, it's specifically using for somebody try to shape a metal. So in order to form a metal, first, or specifically to sharpen a knife, from a metal to a knife, you have to hammer it first, and then to shape it, to make it like the shape of knife. And then that involves the process of flattening it. So somebody will have to take it in and out of the furnace, hammering, put it back to the furnace, and then come out, take out the metal, and then put it back in, and take out the metal, put it back in. So here I put down repeatedly. And when the shape is close to whatever you want, then you will sharpen it, right? So here is the paraphrase. Shape a piece of metal object by repeatedly hammering, shaping, flattening, and polish it. And if the metal is over sharpened, it cannot last long. So this green part, it means the first word. So you can see that this part is being omitted. So Lao Tzu try to tell us that the harder it is, it's likely to break. So this verse compared to chapter 8 that we talk about water. Water is the softest thing we have in our environment. So contrast to water, it will be something hard. It's more likely to break. And I remember when I was small, and we all use a lot of pencil. And when the pencil is used too sharp, then when you write it, it's going to break. As I grew older, I realized that when I sharpen the pencil, I cannot make it too sharp. So what happens when we make our knife too sharp? It's going to chip off, right? And when it's chip off, it will lose some functionality. So in cultivation perspective, being too sharp will cause damage to ourselves and other people, especially if we are in a managerial or senior position. This can happen in any organization, nonprofit organization. It can happen in temple or church. So one day when we become a higher level position, then we don't want to sharpen ourselves. We want to keep it dull because sharp words will cause harm and create distance between people. And number 2, speech should not be sharp, edged, or sour. This picture here, it represents our tongue is like a knife that can do killing without blood. Slandering is a great example. Bullying somebody can be a great example too. And now, instead of that, with the current technology, there is online bullying. There is like YouTube, Facebook bullying, Instagram bullying. So those are not good. So it's not necessary apply to speech. It can apply to our behavior, in our writing too. So we have to be cautious. So speech should not be sharp, edge, or sour. So sour, it doesn't hurt so much on people, but the attitude of being grunchy, being nasty and unpleasant, it's something that we want to avoid too. In other words, our behavior should be rounded, should be soft. It's okay to have extra endurance. It's okay to have tolerance and always consider other people. Being dull will last longer. Do you know that Lao Tzu has a teacher? Lao Tzu's teacher is Chang Zong. Chang Zong teach Lao Tzu different ritual in Zhou dynasty. In his old age, he was sick. One day he called Lao Tzu right in front of his bed. And then he said, "Look at my mouth." So Chang Zong opened up his mouth really wide. Chang Zong asked Lao Tzu, "Do you see my tongue?" And Lao Tzu said, "Yes, I do see your tongue." And then Chang Zong's next question was, "Do you see my teeth?" And then Lao Tzu looked at his mouth. His teeth is all gone. So this was a lesson that Chang Zong wanted to teach Lao Tzu. Something is hard or something is sharp will not last long. And if it's soft, it's going to last long. Have you ever seen tongue doctor? I don't think tongue doctor exists, but we do see a lot of dentists, right? So dentist is to fix our teeth. Because our teeth, it's hard. Sometimes we have a broken teeth. Sometimes our teeth are being chipped off. But you will never see a tongue doctor. This verse tells us that we are all piece of knife. We don't want to sharpen ourselves too much. And because if we sharpen ourselves too much, we will have no friend, we will have no family, because all our friends will leave us alone. And when they see us, they don't want to be killed, right? So they will run away. In a room filled with gold and jades, no one can keep. And we know that focus more on spiritual learning and mirror cultivation is important, right? This is what Lao Tzu always tried to teach us. And if we have money to give to our descendants, it's better to pass virtue than to hand over wealth. Here, I want to give you a story of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, he was the king of the Macedon, and he created a vast empire that stretched from Macedonia to Egypt and from Greece to part of India. And this was his time. He lived a very short life. By the time he conquered his empire, eventually he got sick. And when he got sick, he knew that he was going to die. And he called his physician in, and the physician tried his best to save his life, but still does not work. So he told all his followers and his general and the doctor that he has 3 wishes. So the first wish is to have my physician bring my coffin home. The second one is to scatter the gold, silver, and gem along the path, because they are going to carry the coffin from the place that he is sick to the destination. And number 3 is to put my hand outside of the coffin. So basically, the coffin supposed to be completely closed, but the coffin have to drill 4 holes. The 4 holes is for 2 hands and 2 feet. So when he finished his wishes, everybody was astonished. What kind of wish is that? I mean, it can be fulfilled easily, and no one dared to ask. However, there was a general who is very close to him. He asked King Alexander the Great, "Why did you ask for these 3 wishes? We will make sure those 3 wishes are fulfilled." But we don't understand why you ask these 3 strange wishes. So Alexander the Great said, the first wish to have my physician bring my coffin home. It's because I want to share with people that what I learned during this time. I learned that my physician, even my best physician, cannot save me from death. Everybody have to go through death. He can only watch me die. And number 2, to scatter gold, silver, and gems along the path. In my lifetime, I spent so much time greeting for so much material wants. I grieve for much bigger territory, much bigger empires, for much money. But those things, I cannot take it with me. They cannot fit into my coffin. So I want to show the people what I learned. I cannot take any of those. And number 3, even though I have accumulated so much wealth and fame, but I cannot take it with me. I come empty-handed, and here I'm going to leave the world empty-handed. And every time when I look at this story, I find it's amazing to remind ourselves that, all the money and wealth and fame does not come with us. And here I want to share with you a short story. There was a poor man. He worked his whole life and he is still poor. And one day he died and he asked God, in my lifetime, and finally I die, and I work so hard. How come I don't have enough wealth like other people? So God said, then what do you want? So this man said, I dream to be with a lot of money. And indeed, God is very benevolent. God fulfilled his wish. Later on, this man did reincarnated again on earth, and he became the security guard for a bank. His dream is fulfilled. He can be with a lot of money, but the money is not his. And here is the second story that I want to share with you. This is a true story happened in Taiwan. So in Taiwan, there was a Tao cultivator, a very sincere Tao cultivator. So one day he heard that in Taiwan, there's a Tao temple going to be built. And then they were collecting money. And so there was like a reception area. And then so he went up to the reception area and he told the person who record on the book that how much he want to donate. So he said, well, I want to donate $10,000, but it's 10,000 Taiwan dollar. It's NT dollar here, $10,000, which is equivalent to $333 US dollar. So the person recalled this $10,000, but when he recorded, he forgot to put a decimal point. Therefore, that $10,000 becomes $1 million. But this man, he was not aware. So a few days later, they make a huge bulletin board. So-and-so donated $1 million. They make a huge bulletin board and his name is the first one. Everybody say, wow, thank you so much for your donation. And then he looked in the board, he was thinking like, oh, $10,000. Now it becomes $1 million. So then he thought about it. He said, okay, maybe it's God's will. And let's just make it $1 million. 1 million Taiwan dollar. This man, he has some money. He's not poor, so he can fulfill that wish. Anyway, he did not complain about the person omitted the decimal point. He started to go back home and start to put himself together. How am I going to come up with this $1 million? He has other property, and he immediately thought about, oh, okay, I have a piece of land. It's $4 million Taiwan dollar. So he sold his land. The property is worth $4 million. He donated $1 million to the temple, and he has $3 million left. By the way, he's a business person. He said, well, I cannot let this $3 million to sit still. I have to invest in some other area. So he went to buy other property. So he used the $3 million to invest on other property. And after just a few years, the property value went triple. So you can imagine the $1 million that he donated to the temple. It's like divine investment that help him to grow his real estate into a bigger one. So it's very important to keep in our mind, whatever money that we donate to temple, whether it's our money, our energy, our effort, or our youth, it's our youth too. So this is investing in us for our spiritual cultivation. In our temple, there is a saying, and this saying is from Jigong Buddha. Jigong Buddha say, if you can spare your 30%, I will help you with 70%. Does that sound like a good investment? This is the best investment you can ever have. You just invest 30% and you get 70% back. Isn't this wonderful? He understands the verse, in the room filled with gold and jade, no one can keep. And he understands that. So with that huge amount of donation, it did bring some good fortune to him. God is very graceful. If you can donate some, God will give you extra fold. This story is very similar to the story in the Bible. There was a man, a rich man, he wanted to go on a long trip, and then he gave 5 bags of silver to the first servant, and 2 bags of silver to the second one, and 1 bag of silver to the last one. And the first one, who received 5 bags of silver, his money got double, and the wealthy man decided to give him extra money. So this is how the story play out here. So I find that it's interesting. It's a real story. And here I want to share with you another real story, which I find it amazing. It's also my motivational story too. Have you ever seen evergreen on the railroad? And then there's also Eva Air. So here I want to share with you a story of Zhang Rongfa. He has a massive business empire. It's called the Evergreen Group, with more than 27,000 employees, 220 offices worldwide, and he has a 30 major corporation worldwide. This is the data in 2016. And by the way, he already passed. 2016, he passed. In 2016, when he passed, he pledged to give away all his wealth to his foundation, and that's worth $1.7 billion to his foundation. So he's a wealthy man. And let's look at why he became wealthy. He did not inherit any money from his parents. I should say that he built his business with empty hand. He graduated at age 18, just like anyone else. And then he went to a shipping company, a Japanese shipping company in Taiwan. He finished high school. He did not go to college, but he went to vocational school, or like a trade school, for a few years. And then after that, he decided that he does not want to go to school, and then he joined the shipyard. So in other words, he became a staff of the shipyard. After that, he went to different company. He started from the 3rd officer, because there's a different ranking. He started from the 3rd officer, and because he worked diligently, he moved up from 3rd officer to 2nd officer, and then to 1st officer, and eventually he became a captain. And there was a point that he said, well, I think I can form my own company. So in age 34, he had a joint venture with few friends. And in age 41, he formed his company, Evergreen Marine Vessel. And when he formed his first company, he had a used vessel. And this vessel is a vessel that he purchased from Japan. And keep in mind, he just started his business, so he can only afford a used vessel. And in the next 4 years, he gradually acquired 12 vessels during this 4-year time. And for the 12 vessel, it's still used. And he has this ambition. And because he built a company so new and he was just so young, he knows that it's very important to build trust between him and the customer. So he would run his vessel empty loaded, from going around the globe, from Taiwan to eastward. and then from Taiwan to Westworld. So it takes some time to go around the globe. And he set up a schedule for his customer. So his customer know exactly when his ship will arrive. This is an amazing decision because back then people will only dispatch their vessel if there is an order. But he made the decision that he's going to run a vessel with or without order to build up his customers' trust. Indeed, he did, and his empire just grew from that point on. And when he was 48 years old, he was able to custom make his S-type vessel, and his business just continued to grow. And his evergreen group covers airs. There's an EVA air and covers the sea. There's the Evergreen Marine and all this empire here, aviation technology, air servers, he does air cargo and also international hotel. So why do I tell you this story? He come empty-handed, and people start to think about why he has such a fortune and why is he so lucky. Why can't I be like him? Why can't I be like him? So there's actually a story behind him. This is a real story in the Song Dynasty. I have to mention about these two characters first. In Song Dynasty, there was a person, his name is Li Xiuyuan, who we call Jigong Buddha. Li Xiuyuan is the previous life of Zhang Tianran, who is our Sizun, the 64th patriarch. Jigong Buddha was reincarnated as Li Xiuyuan. So Li Xiuyuan was a Buddha's monk. He was with a temple, and this temple is called Jingyuan Si. So he was with his temple, and there was one day, there was some kind of fire, burned down the temple. 2/3 of the temple was gone. So it was urgent to rebuild a temple. And he thought, I have to find a source somewhere because we need a lot of wood. And he come to this man. This man is Liu Caidong. He is from Sichuan province. So he went to this man, and this is a wealthy man. Not only wealthy, he's also benevolent. He would just give his wealth to the poor people, and he does many good things to the people in his village. So one day, Li Xiuyuan knocked on his door. Hey, I'm a monk from a faraway place. I need a lot of wood to build my temple. Can you help me? And I love his response. Liu Caidong, he said, okay, well, you can take whatever you want. You can take whatever you want. As soon as he said that, Li Xiuyuan, he was a monk, right? So he took out his yellow robe. He threw out his yellow robe, and that yellow robe covered his two mountains. And that two mountains is full of a forest, full of wood. Imagine that scene. So Liu Caidong, he was so amazed what he see right in front of his eyes. In fact, Li Xiuyuan is not a regular person. He is a monk, but he also has a special power too. We should call him a Buddha. In the modern time, we call him Jigong Buddha, who is reincarnated as Zhang Tianran during this time. So when this thing happened, when Liu Caidong saw Li Xiuyuan cover his two mountains with the robe, he almost cried because he just cannot believe this thing happened. So this person, Liu Caidong, is the previous life of Zhang Rongfa. So now we know a person's wealth is not built from scratch. It needs to be built from previous life. So sometimes just don't be envy of other people's wealth because they done such a good deed in their previous life. And now we know why he has such good fortune. He has wealth, he has fame, and he has great reputation. So how do we know this story? It happens that it was during the channeling session, Zhang Tianran, our Sizun, told a story that Mr. Zhang Longfa has good fortune from Evergreen Corp, and that's because he was reincarnated from Mr. Liu Caidong, who gave out 2 mountains of the trees to Li Xiuyuan to rebuild his temple in Song Dynasty. When wealth and prominence are accompanied with arrogance, blame oneself for all the mistake occurs. So here I want to point out to you, gui. Gui, this word means it has to be somebody who has money, but this person, it also have very high influential power too. So this is the word that I want to emphasize. So somebody who has power, who has authority, and who has money tend to make a lot of mistakes because they might talk arrogantly. And what kind of mistake are we talking about? I'm talking about sin. Sometimes they tend to bully people, look down on people. The word of choice, it's not so nice. Sometimes it can be gossiping or slandering. So in cultivation, being arrogant is our biggest hurdle. You will have suspicions and fear because you are in a high position. You don't want other people to overcome you. So there will be fear. There will be distrust. With this, it will set one apart from the ordinary people. Number 2, having much money might cause decline in value of integrity, ethic, trust, and honesty. And because somebody is already in that high position, and in order to continue to hold that position, there's a lot of dirty thing that this person might do. Not all the people will do it, but some greedy person will do everything they can to sustain their position. And this might bring unfortunate thing to the family. Nowadays, people focus so much on accumulating wealth and money. Making money it's not as easy as spending money, right? We can spend money easily, say in casino, or we can buy a luxury car easily. But to receive that money from our hand, it takes time and effort. Some people say that I work so hard, but how come I don't have enough money? Therefore, people scam, they commit fraud. Nowadays, because of the technology, there are so many internet fraud. There's a Facebook scamming. Oh, I also want to make you be aware. Recently, I received a text message, and the text message is to want every one of us to be aware. And that is that if you are driving, say, if you are in a parking lot or you come to get gas, and somebody hands you a business card, do not roll down your window and do not receive that business card, because right underneath that business card, there's a blade and that might cut you. Nowadays, people use different things to get the money that they are not supposed to get. And also, I used to live in Arcadia. Arcadia is considered a rich community in Southern California. My mom always called me, be careful, because there's just a lot of robbery. There's a lot of burglary in the neighborhood. Now, I noticed that on the news, the crime, they are moving to the east. They moved to Roland High and Diamond Bar. So if you live in these 2 areas, you have to be careful. And also some women like to carry Gucci's handbag, Galgary or Burberry. So those handbags, each one can cost $300 to $500 easily. So if you carry those handbags, sometimes it will just bring you disaster because you might be robbed. So number 3, vicious and auspicious energy appearance. So if you have an arrogant energy inside of you, you will have that vicious energy within you too. And that vicious energy will somehow change your appearance. And when your appearance change, you will attract different energy. And so this goes hand in hand. If you want to have a life with full of blessing, you have to change your mentality first. In order to get auspicious energy, you have to think benevolent, follow the course of Tao, always think for other people, and live in plain basic life is the way to go. Number 4, Lao Tzu tells us how to long last. If you are rich, the best thing that you can do is give. And if you are in a high social status, the best thing you can do is to stay low. And some of you might say, no, I'm not rich. So this does not apply to me. What about we are rich in wisdom? We have so much wisdom in Tao. Not so much. We have some wisdom in Tao, but some people, they just don't know anything about Tao. And if we have any newcomer want to learn Tao, we don't want to be arrogant. We want to give them our knowledge. And you might say, oh, I don't have high social status. What about any one of us? We can be like a Tao senior because we are already in chapter 9. Some people, they have not even started chapter 1 yet. So if you are in a certain level in terms of wealth perspective or money perspective or knowledge perspective, this will all apply to us. So here is the summary of the first 4 pitfalls that we need to be aware. So Lao Tzu use metaphor. The first one, I highlighted the keyword in red, to hold and to feel. It's better to stop early. So Lao Tzu is referring to pursuing in career, desire, and our goal. It's okay to pursuing your desire, career, or goals, and many things in life, but make sure you stop early and put some attention into your spiritual cultivation. Number 2, to over sharpen a knife, it won't last long. This is talking about dealing in speech and behavior. We never want to use our tongue to kill other people. So keep it dull. Number 3, a room is filled with gold and jade. No one can keep. So this is talking about pursuing money and wealth. We have every right to pursue money and wealth, but Lao Tzu say, keep it moderate, keep it content, keep it simple. We do need money to sustain our life, but when you are pursuing money and wealth, don't forget to accumulate virtue, because that's part of the spiritual cultivation. And number 4, the verse is very straightforward. When wealth and prominence are accompanied with arrogance, blame oneself for all the mistake incurred. All the mistake meaning karma. You are going to incur karma and sins. So beware. So how do we avoid this? Be humble. So the more we cultivate, the more we are on this journey of Tao, we will see a lot of mistake that we incurred. It's good that we are aware of our mistake. There is a Chinese saying, a saint has many mistakes, but an ordinary man has no mistake. So if you can observe,
Can you say that in Chinese?
圣人多过，小人无过. In other words, a saint has many mistakes, but an ordinary man has no mistake. So we can look at the verse in another perspective. So this is like building up. This is step number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. If somebody wants to have wealth and prominence, this person have to work so hard. And then maybe need to sharpen the knife, be very articulate in many doing, in dealing with human relationship or a workplace, in any organization. And then at some point, this person is going to accumulate money in the bank. And the last stage is the social status will be high and the money is a lot in the bank. Look at it like a chronological order. So this one happens first. I have the arrow here. So this one happened first, and then comes to number 2, comes to number 3, and comes to number 4. So when you are in the 4th stage, beware, because this is the accumulation of your career, accumulation of your life. And we can look at this from a marriage relationship too, because in the beginning we try so hard to please our boyfriend and girlfriend, and then once we get married, we intend to sharpen our knife so that we try not to lose our battle in the marriage. And it happens a lot. And you can see that when somebody sharpened their knife too much, they will ended up in a divorce. So my philosophy is sometimes it's okay to play dumb. And then a room filled with gold and jade. So it's okay to pursue money and wealth, but need to put some attention to cultivate your family energy too. Need to put some attention into the kids and the family around. Yeah, so humble is the key. So here, stop early, keep it dull, accumulation of virtue, humble. This is Lao Tzu's advice. So here comes the last verse. After the work is accomplished, the fame is distinguished. One withdraw. This is the Tao of heaven. So notice here I put 1, 2, 3 because it's actually 3 things happen, right? If you look at this, the work has to be done. So it takes a while to finish the work, but now the work is done. So your name is established. Maybe the money is there and people compliment you, and then you withdraw from the scene. This is Tao of heaven. I call this Wu Wei. Last week we talked about Wu Wei. Wu Wei here, say it very well. Wu Wei is about doing things with the nature of law, doing things with the Tao of heaven. So Wu Wei is you still have to do your work, but this work is do it according to Tao. Here I have how to long last, do according to nature, and very importantly, to stay behind. Fame, wealth, prominence may trigger suffering. So here, very important, why do we want to stay behind? Why can't I stay in the front? I want to stay in the front. Most people want to stay in the front because if you stay in the front, you will tend to attach to that accomplishment. You will tend to attach to that wealth. So it's important not to stay in the front, stay in the back. So if you stay in the front, you will receive a lot of compliment. However, the higher the position that you achieve, maybe you will attract jealousy and envy, and therefore it will bring you danger. So another purpose to stay behind is to allow the new generation to excel than the previous one. So in the organization, especially in say church or Tao temple, I will talk about my Tao temple specifically. We all respect our senior, but our senior always allow us to excel, always allow us to have opportunity to grow. Just like one of our audience here is Junior Master Lee. She is senior. I'm not senior, but she allowed me to host this class because eventually I will become senior too. So I do need this kind of practice to share my wisdom. So this is called passing on the torch. This same thing happened in the family too. If you have kids, you will want to teach the good virtue to your children too, right? If you are a teacher, you want to share your wisdom to other people. All the saints and sages try to do that to us. That's why there's so much scripture and so much book, so much sutra that we can learn. We are very fortunate that we have our own wisdom, but our wisdom is so limited, and it's important to receive other wisdom from the ancient saints and sages. I find that beautiful. So this is Wu Wei, and when I look at this verse, it reminds me chapter 2 and chapter 7, and I can find that similarity. So here I can see that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, because first step, it's Wu Wei, forget all being. It's like doing all things, but without possession. Devote all deeds without reputation. Achieve success without dwell on success. Because one does not dwell on success, it will not go away. Doesn't this look like chapter 9? This one, it looks like the first 3 verse here. And chapter 7, descent, places himself last, yet he comes first, position himself extraneously. This is like staying behind. When we look at the future chapter, you will always see something like this. Lao Tzu keep reminding us to stay behind. Don't stay in the front. Don't stay on the top. Stay low. Stay low. That's how you can long last. So here is the content of chapter 9. I highlighted in the important text. Again, here is the body. The first 4 words are the pitfall that we should avoid. So not to overfill, not to over sharpen, and make sure don't fill your room, don't fill your mind with material wants. You want to fill your mind with wisdom, right? Not just the material wants. Our body is made up of 2 parts, the physical part, which eventually will go away, and the spiritual part will be long lasting. So make sure you fill your mind with majority spiritual part and minority physical part. I say minority is because we still need to sustain our life. We still need to work. We still need to feed ourselves. So we need some money in our bank account. And this one, beware not to be arrogant. And here is the 3 stage. Work is completed. Fame is distinguished. Number 3, one withdraws. Here I want to reiterate on the first one. To hold and to feel, it's better to stop early. This is not necessarily talking about career, desire, or things in our life. What if somebody who have a sad experience, like somebody being traumatized in their childhood? So instead of you fill your mind with all the experience, try not to think about that. Try to allow other energy to come into your mind, because darkness and light cannot occupy in the same room. So the moment that you allow the light to come in, then the darkness will go away. So for those who unfortunately experience some bad experience in your childhood, you want to not to think about that. Try to allow the bright energy to come through. I want to bring your attention to the Diamond Sutra, because I think this is related to chapter 9. Diamond Sutra 32. All phenomena are illusion. All conditioned phenomena are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow, like dew or a flash of lightning. Thus, we should contemplate upon them. Here, when I look at this, I say your way, because last week we were just talking about Wu Wei, and then I start to contemplate, is Wu Wei opposite of your way? So in a sense, it is. So let's look at here, the red text. So Wu Wei is human do things without human intention. In other words, we want to do it according to Tao. So that's Wu Wei. And your way is the opposite of Wu Wei. Your way is with human selfish intention. In other words, it's things that is done by humans' deliberation, judgment, and action. So in this sense, when we look at this interpretation on this perspective, Wu Wei is opposite of your way. Such as your way is like what we talk about in chapter 9, to hold and to feel, to over sharpen our knife. A room is filled with gold and jades. It's something that we have to work hard. So those are, we do it deliberately. We can make more money or we can make less money. It's our choice. And wealth and prominence are like human intention. It's something that we gain. So this is your way. So in this sense, it's your way, it's opposite of Wu Wei. But here, in this context, it's talking about impermanence. So keep this in mind. So all the condition, because it's human conditioned, it's being conditioned by humans, manipulation, technology, Cell phone is impermanent, it's conditioned. Cell phone is made by human, right? And laptop is made by human. Our garment is made by human. So anything made by human is conditioned phenomena. And here I want to talk about Fa. Fa. It's very common. Fa, it's translated as Dharma, but Fa has a different meaning. Just like Tao, Tao has a different meaning. Tao, it has, we can talk about Tao in three different perspectives. Three perspective, it's a universe perspective, heaven and earth perspective, and human perspective. Tao has different layer of meaning. So Fa also has a different layer of meaning. In this context, it's not translated as Dharma, it's translated as tool, vehicle, or method. So everything that we see has its way or its vehicle. For example, pencil. Pencil has its function. In order to make it work, it needs certain component. For the cell phone to work, it needs many components. And then for the dishwasher, when we use dishwasher, it comes with a big manual. So dishwasher is a tool, but in order to make the tool work, you need to follow that instruction. And in order for that tool to work, there's different component inside. So this is called Fa. It's a tool. I call it's a phenomenon. But all this thing has one thing in common. They are impermanent. All this thing is impermanent. Dharma, teaching, tool, vehicle, method, ways, they are impermanent. So it really doesn't matter whether it's translated as tool or vehicle or method. But here I want to use the Fa as all the conditioned environment, all the conditioned external material things. So all the conditioned phenomena are like a dream, illusion, bubble, shadow. So dream, we all have dream, like a real dream. Sometimes when we go to dream, we dream of something and we achieve something, or maybe it can be a bad dream or a horrible dream, like watching a horrible movie. And that dream seems so real. And maybe you sweat, maybe you are so happy, and maybe you cry, and maybe you get so scared. But then when you wake up, you say, if it's a good dream, you will still have a smile on your face. If it's a bad dream, you will say, oh, thank God, that's a dream. Our life is like a dream. When we are in that scene, it seems so real, but it doesn't last long. So here, your Wei-Fa, it means impermanent. Nothing is permanent. An illusion. This is like watching a movie. You watch a movie, maybe Netflix, or watching the movie from a laptop or from a movie theater. And during that time, you are so involved, and maybe you cry, and maybe you are so nervous and so anxious, and you almost feel like you are part of the character. And when the movie ends, everything is shut down, and you come back to your life. So isn't our life like this? Most old people will have this kind of awakening. Well, some participants here are very young, so you don't think it's an illusion, but wait until you get older. You will know that everything happening is an illusion, because there's nothing that you can take. Just like earlier I mentioned about the Alexander the Great, nothing you can take except karma and your virtue. And bubble, inside the bubble, it's empty, right? The bubble is there. You can see it and you can touch it. Maybe it's a bubble gum. You can touch it and you say, okay, I'm going to make a bubble gum. But eventually that will deflate it. So bubble will not last. And the shadow will be with us. But can we touch the shadow? Can you grasp the shadow? You cannot. And then when the sun goes down, can you see your shadow? Isn't that like temporary? And also like the morning dew. The morning dew here, I have a picture. So the morning dew, it's there for a few minutes until the sun come up and the flash of lightning. So everything that we see in our environment even our hair is temporary too, because it's going to fall out. My teeth, it's going to fall out. It's temporary. 1 hour ago, we were just getting online, and now we just age 1 hour. So our skin, it's also deteriorating too, because we have dead body cell every day. So very important, we should contemplate upon them. So I have in my chapter 9 session. In my next session, I will talk about chapter 10, the ultimate virtue. Thank you for your participation. Thank you so much.